Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio. It is I, the mayor, Flobo Voice, in the mayor's office, hang with those who are thinkers, doers, and creators. And my guest this episode is doing something that I could never do, and that is sing on wax. He does it with such a flair for himself and his creator. Please welcome Stephen Robert to the show. How's it going, man?
What's up? What's up, man? Peace to everybody out there. What's going on?
First of all, how the EP, Sound of Heaven, sound pretty smooth. And I want to know, how do I get my voice as smooth as yours? Or is it born with it? Is it training? Is it like back in the day you decide this is the path? How'd it work?
You know what, man? What's crazy is, man. Thanks for saying that it's smooth, man. It feels good to hear someone else say to me that it sounds good. Because honestly, man, for the longest, I didn't think my voice sounded great. Like growing up, it wasn't one of those things where people said, "Oh man, you sing so great. You should do it professionally." It wasn't like that for me. It was more so I kind of just sung around the church, and we just kind of did everything around the church that I grew up in. And over time, like as I gotten older, I realized like, okay, I like singing a little more than doing the other things in church or participating around the church. And singing just kind of something that I developed as I gotten older. And I was like, man, I should have been doing this a lot earlier, but I'm glad I'm doing it now.
Man, you said you didn't like the sound of your voice, and I felt kindred spirits. I hate the sound of my voice. I really do. And it's like, you know what, man? If I can't be silent forever, I'm going to go ahead and try it. Right. But you talked about having that background in the church, singing for the church. Was there a moment where you decided, there was a lightning bolt moment where you go, this could be something I can do professionally? Or was it kind of a thing where confidence grew over time? You said, let me try taking the skills I learned here and applying it to my music.
Right, man. I'll tell you, being kind of how it started is just kind of being comfortable on a stage, right? And in church, you're not really supposed to really call it a stage or entertainment or something like that, but it's kind of entertainment. So, feeling comfortable on stage was something that my dad encouraged me to do. Like, so my parents are pastors, so my dad had me just doing everything in the church, right? Like it's like we were part of the working in the church as well, even though we weren't getting paid. But he would have me sometime introduce them or bring them up, and that's when I got kind of comfortable being on stage. Did some singing, but I'll tell you, man, the crazy thing is my first kind of stint in singing or doing music was not Christian at all. Like,
Tell me.
It wasn't close to anything Christian. It was more so R&B, a little rap. It wasn't too graphic because I still had those church roots, but it wasn't talking anything about God or anything like that. Yeah. And I started off doing what's called, it's called secular music. Whenever you're not, of course, doing anything in the church and you're doing it outside of church people call it secular. So that's the music that I started off with, and I enjoyed it. But man, I would always stop. You know what I mean? Like I would enjoy doing it, but I would take breaks from it. Like, oh man, should I really be doing this? But since I've started doing it in the Christian aspect and really getting to expressing how I feel about God, that's when I've been able to be more consistent with it. So I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe music was the route, but this is the way I should be doing it, if that makes sense.
Well, let me pick up on something you were saying, the difference between Christian music and secular music. Now, my parents were Caribbean immigrants, and so the Christian music is different. Obviously, regionally different, it's different kind of music. And growing up, the same thing. There was music that we were listening to that didn't have those themes, were considered secular. Is it a fence or a wall or a swinging door between these genres? I feel like there's a lot of Christian artists that can do both, but I also feel there's also some that say, no, I'm going to stay on one side or the other. What's your take on that?
Right. You know what, man? To give you the answer that I really feel, I would say it's up to that particular person on how they're able to balance the two, because it is a balancing act. When you're, let's say you're a Christian and you're doing secular music, right? Or you're a Christian and you're doing Christian music, but you like secular music. That whole thing it's just a complete balance, man. It's just going to be up to that person, because you have some Christians that can listen to secular music, even do and make secular music and still be fine with their relationship with God, right? So they'll still pray, they'll still ask God for help in their life, they'll still follow him as best they can, but they just like all sorts of music. But then you have people that try to do that, and then they'll just fall all the way off from anything Christian at all.
Right.
So it's like, I felt myself being able to balance it better, um, and balancing it so well to the point where I had to decide, like, okay, do I want to do secular music? Do I want to do Christian music? Because I can balance this really well, where I'm doing secular music and I'm still a Christian. I'm one of
Yeah.
those people that I'm fine with that balance. Like, I can do it, and I still know who I am in God. I'm not insecure about it. But I decided to go Christian just because I felt better about the music. Like, I felt
Yeah.
better about what I was making. So yeah.
We have artists, I feel that walk two different paths, whether it's just their location or their themes or something. There is like it's
Mhm.
almost like a the same emotion, two sides of a coin. There's like the I'm out after curfew, or it
Mhm.
just feels right. Did you have any of those moments when you decided I'm going to try to walk the line between Christian and secular music?
Um, yeah, I would say not this project that I just did, but the project before that. I noticed that when I was writing, I would go to write secular music, but I would end up writing about how I felt about God as opposed to how I felt about a woman or something else.
Hmm.
Right. So I just noticed it just kind of naturally happened as I was writing, where I'm like, man, I'm talking more about God than I'm talking about my love for any human being. And once I
Right.
got into that, I feel like the music kind of opened up for me a little more, and I was able to make music that sounded the way I always wanted it to sound.
Yeah. So let's talk about
Yeah.
this. A Sound of
Yeah.
Heaven. It was an EP
Mhm.
available now wherever you get your music. And you were talking to me before you went live, is you actually worked with a backing band. What was
Mhm.
that experience like? I mean, deciding to go in
Yeah.
the booth, having the songwriting aspect of it, having the live music aspect. Walk me through everything.
Yeah, man, it's something about, I mean, something about acoustics, like something about live instrumentation that for an artist, it just takes you to a whole nother level. Like, it gets you into really the feeling of the music, and
Hmm.
it really just opens it up. And that's how it was for me, man. It's like I started off doing the music just by myself, like doing everything, by myself, finding the music online that I liked, writing to it, recording it myself, doing everything myself. But man, when I got with the group of guys that I'm working with now, the band, when I got with the piano player, a guitarist, a bass, drummer, and we start to really go in and experiment with the music, that's when the ideas just kind of opened up for me. So I
Yeah.
would encourage everyone out there that's like, you're maybe making music at your house, you may be making it, in your bedroom, or you may be going to a studio, you're kind of doing it by yourself. I encourage you to, like, find a band and get them to play the music that you're making,
Yeah.
because you'll really get to hear, where you're going with it, and you'll develop your sound a little more.
And your songwriting was all you, no team, solo.
Yeah, yeah, just myself.
So I got to ask about inspirations. I know it's kind of a cliche question for things like this, but was it a situation where you had an end goal in mind and worked backwards? Were you influenced by other artists and projects? What was the process on that end?
No, good question, man. My influences, I would say Robin Thicke was a big influence for me. He's somebody that I really enjoyed his music, and he was actually kind of the first, I would say, secular music that I really dived into in my teenage years. Because, like, before, I would say before age 15, 16, we really weren't allowed to listen to R&B, secular music. My parents, they weren't on that, man. When we were young,
Yeah.
like 8, 9, 10, and young kids, they just didn't want any influences that they thought, would cause us to go away from whatever they were teaching us. So early, we couldn't really listen to anything. So, man, as I got a little bit older, once you get in high school, you start, getting into your manhood. You start lifting weights a little bit. You start feeling like you're grown. You start wanting to just do what you want to do, regardless of what your parents are saying. And man, I would say John Legend and Robin Thicke are two guys that I was like, man, I like this. Like, this sounds good. This doesn't sound like the gospel music that I was brought up on. Like, I like this even more. And so I would say they were heavy influences for me.
Did you have a favorite track before you answer that? Because I want to tell you my favorite. "Take Me Back" was my favorite, far and away, because it reminds me of what you're saying a little bit earlier. Because it does have the surface text, if you want to, of someone human, but you can also think of that beyond. I know no artist likes to answer that question, but did the
Yeah.
song stand out for you in this EP?
Yeah, take me back. Man, the thing that stood out with me is my father always encouraged me to do more up tempo music.
Hmm.
Whereas I always liked kind of slower music, you know what I mean? Kind of like that little slow, kind of old school R&B type of feel. But my
Yeah.
father would encourage me, say, "Hey, man, that's great, but start doing some up tempo stuff because you would sound really good on some up tempo tracks." And Take Me Back was a track that I was like, okay, this is what he was talking about. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, okay, all right, this is why he always wanted me to do that because it does sound good. I like it.
How long was the recording process for this EP? A couple months, weeks? What was the timeline for that?
Yeah, man. I went into about I would say a 6 month kind of dive in to recording. So not long, but like consistently for 6 months. Like like
Yeah.
multiple times throughout the week. I'm tweaking the songs, getting them together. So say about 6 months for the whole EP.
All right. So when was the time where you're like, oh, I'm never getting this done? What is
Yeah,
going on? What was that like? Those long nights, those long sessions. How'd you power
yeah.
through?
No, you definitely hit roadblocks where you feel like when you're writing songs back to back, sometimes you have a moment where you're like, did I say that already? It's like, like
Yeah, yeah,
am I writing the same thing? Didn't I just say that in the last song?
yeah.
But the best thing to do, like when you experience that, is just kind of just get out of your own head. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if this song is because I very much feel like the song almost tells you what the words should be.
Hmm.
It's like when you listen to a song, the words are already in it. It's just that you got to find it. Like the words
Yeah,
are somewhere out there in the atmosphere. You just got to grab it and put it together. So when you're thinking about it too much, that's when you can kind of trip yourself up, right? When you're
yeah.
just thinking way too much. So I definitely had a couple of those moments where I'm like 3 songs in, and I'm like, man, am I saying too much of the same thing? Did I use that line before? And then that's when you got to take maybe like a week break and don't write anything, right? And then
Right.
go back into it the next week. So that's what helped me out.
Talk to me about that song you did, "Conquered All," man. That one
Hmm.
feels a little bit like I guess a more up tempo song, but definitely a little bit more edgy. There had a little bit of
Yeah.
of grit underneath it. What was the writing behind that? What was the thematic ideas behind that one? 'Cause that one really stuck out for me as well.
Yeah, no, man, Conquer It All is a great song that I enjoy writing. And you know, sometimes in this Christian walk, man, you're going to be faced with trials, tribulations, things that are going to, like, life happens, man. Life happens, and sometimes you can feel like, and we all feel like this, whether you're a Christian or not, where you feel like, man, like the world is against you, like things
Yeah.
are not working out, or you may get fired from a job, you may have tough time at school or whatever it is. And what helped me get through like every tough time in my life is just having that, okay, God, it's me and you against everything.
Hmm.
Having that type of mentality where it's like, okay, I'm not by myself. I'm not alone. I, Even if I feel like sometimes friends are not around, sometimes I feel like I may not want to talk to my family about certain issues. I always got God with me. Like he's
Yeah.
always here. He's always right here with me. And Conquer It All was a song where I wanted to express that, where it's like, okay, um, God, yeah, you're a God of love and of peace, but you're also a God that can help me, hey, go to war. You know what I mean? Take down these any type of forces that I feel like are opposing me. Any type of bad vibes that I feel like are trying to take over. You're a God that also, you know. And I'll take a second to talk about, man. A lot of people talk about God and Christianity, and they just talk about like the love and the peace side of it. But man, there's a whole Old Testament of the Bible where God was getting busy, man. Like he was getting busy, man. Like he was in the middle of wars and helping people win and helping people take over and conquer. And it's like that's what that song speaks to me. It's like, yeah, God, you're the God of love and of peace and of warm fuzzy feelings. Like, yeah, you're that, but you're also the God that can help me to get things done and help me to conquer. So yeah, I feel you. That song stood out to me too.
We're talking about the Sound of Heaven EP. What was release like, man? I know artists release an album and it's kind of like childbirth. Like, I don't want to see it. It's done. I'm going to relax. And there's other ones are kind of like, oh, I did it. Like, what was the moment when you submit that button to whatever distributor you did and you're like, we're done? Walk me through that, man.
For me, it was like a feeling of relief that I finally got done, but it was also a feeling of like, okay, now it's time to really get to work now. Because for someone who writes songs or someone who makes music, this is not just for me, any musician, someone who writes songs, it doesn't necessarily come easy, but you're able to do it. Like, that's your gift. That's the thing God has blessed you with. So you're able to do it. The crazy thing is sometimes the hard part is pushing the music, because that may not be what you're skilled in. Like, you can, you may be able to make the music, you may be able to write the song, play the music, whatever it is. But now getting out here and pushing it, marketing it, put it in the faces of people who will like the music. Like, that part is sometimes where a lot of musicians stop, where a lot of musicians quit. And in the past, when I was doing secular music, when I was doing R&B type music, that's the part where I struggled with. Like, I struggled with the after release portion where it's okay, it's done. Now, how do I get the music out there? And that's the part where I would stop, because I would be like, man, I really don't have the desire to push the music. Whereas now, man, once I got into talking about or singing about how I feel about God, my relationship with him, now I feel the I want to say the mojo or the energy to want to push the music. It's like, okay, no, the music's great, but I want people to hear this because maybe it's going to help somebody. Maybe it's going to get someone through a time where they're struggling and they don't know what to do. So no, I gotta push it. So when, to answer your question, man, when I released the music, it was a relief, but at the same time, it was like, okay, hey, this is the part where you struggled with before. Hey, this time around, you got actually a good message. Don't struggle with it this time. Like, get it out there. So, yeah.
I've heard that artist creativity is kind of like water through a hose, and if you get that accelerant, that manager, that platform, that following, can be that sprinkler everyone kind of needs. So I hear you, and people could probably listen to this too and totally relate. Like, man, I got this idea, but how do I get it out there? But one of the cool things about that is being innovative. And you were talking to me before we went live about having virtual performances from songs on the album. Right? That's kind of fun, right? Being able to go to a whole new visual space.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. If I feel like for a musician now, that's bigger than ever, man. Is having your music online and having it online in a way where it's live and it's kind of like that concert at home type of thing. COVID for exactly.
Jamming out.
Like it's crazy because like COVID, for musicians, for comedians, and for anyone who does their work on a stage, it was hard on that whole community. It's like, okay, the stages are shut down, the venues are closed. Like, what do we do? So, now that things are opening back up, I still feel like there's something there in that virtual at-home experience where, you can get on, whatever platform, YouTube, whatever you like, watching or listening to music, but get on there and view your favorite artists in the comfort of your home. I feel like that's the space where I feel like my music is going to go to a whole nother level. So that's what we're working on now.
So it's like a concert situation. You're gonna go on tour virtually. Like, what does that look like? Like when people can interact with that.
Yeah. So what we want to start with is like the pre-recorded, just to make sure that it's right. You know what I mean? Like we don't ever want to go out there and be too live and things mess up and you end up wishing you never did it. so it's going to be pre-recorded at first, but as we continue to release different songs from the EP pre-recorded, I think eventually what we'll do is do a live session where maybe there is a physical audience there, but people at home can tune in. So we're still working out the kinks, but actually tonight we're doing some pre-recording for the first set of songs. So actually, as soon as I'm done here in a couple hours, I'm gonna go meet up with the band. We're gonna do like the first stages of the pre-recording. So yeah.
Hear that, y'all? The craft don't stop. Here's my next question, because it kind of relates to that. What does a day off look like for Stephen Robert? What does Stephen Robert do with his day off?
Man, it's crazy. Like on my day off, I need to spend time with my wife. Like I got a beautiful wife. I'm pretty newly married. Like I'm still because yeah, thanks man. Still considered newlywed, still fresh in the game. So man, it's spending time with her definitely. Like us. She likes to shop, which is not necessarily a good habit, but it's taking her out, shopping, and we'll go get something to eat. We'll just kind of hang out and kind of decompress. And I got to kind of turn my mind off from the music sometime and focus on the people that I really care about, people that are right in front of me. So.
Yeah, before we wrap this up, man, personal question, if I may.
Yeah.
How do you get your skin so clear, brother? What are you doing? You are in a time machine, dude? Like what? Man. I'm looking at my pores. Like, how is he doing it? No, tell me.
Man, you know what? What's so crazy, man? I've tried everything on my face, dude. Like I've tried everything because I always feel like it doesn't look good. So I've tried everything, dude. But I think for me, it just ends up being like, okay, I need to drink a lot of water, like drinking water and just some basic kind of face soap. And that's it. When I get too experimental, that's when I start breaking out. That's when I'm like, okay, I shouldn't have tried that. So,
if you guys can watch the video version of this interview, it is the biggest spokesperson for water I have ever seen. So please pick up. No, Steve Robert, thank you so much for being on the show, man. It's getting to your mind as the creative and seeing how your process. People are going to see this, and you are going to blow up. How could everyone interact with you, your music? How can they, connect with you online?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely follow me on Instagram. It's Stephen Robert II. So Stephen Robert and then 2 capital I's. So you can follow me on Instagram. The music is wherever streaming is. So whatever Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you like listening to, just type in Stephen Robert II. And then lastly, I would say go to my website, which is StephenRobert2nd.com. Keep it real easy. It's just Stephen Robert II for everything. So StephenRobert2nd.com. But that's where we have like our email list where you can get on, put in your email so that when we have shows, when me and the band are coming to your city, you can know when we're coming.
Future tours on the horizon, sir?
Man, we're working on it, man. We're working on it. So we're starting with the virtual performances, but as soon as we're done with those, that's when we're going to get out on the road and make this happen, man.
Do you have a dream venue? You think about something in the mind's eye when you perform up top?
You know what? Not particularly. But my whole thing is, man, I just want every show that we do, whether it's small or big, to feel big. You know what I mean? It's like as artists, we always get excited for those big shows, but man, sometimes it's those small shows where it's just a few people there, but they're really vibing out with the music. Is those shows that sometimes mean the most. So yeah, I'm excited for the big shows, small shows, everything, man.
Gotta hit up Stephen Robert. Make sure you ask for them and the band in your city because Homeboy's going to be touring. You heard it here first. Anyway, I'm saying right up, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.